Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something that's really stirring things up. Blockchain technology and how it connects with commercial real estate.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. You've asked us to look at how these, cutting edge ideas might actually change the industry.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack all that. We want to really get clear on what blockchain and smart contracts are beyond the buzzwords.
And then see how they could potentially, shake up commercial real estate practices. We're talking real applications, real implications.
Right? What does it actually mean for buying, selling, owning property? We've pulled insights from quite a few places too. SIR, BitDegree, Deloitte, FCIQ, Spydroblog, CoinMetro, even CNBC.
Good range of sources. So where should we start? Blockchain basics.
Yeah, let's do that. When we say blockchain, what's the core idea we need to get?
Okay, so fundamentally, blockchain is like a shared digital logbook. It's distributed, meaning it's copied across many computers, not stored in just one place. And it's encrypted for security.
A shared logbook. Okay, so like a Google Doc everyone can see.
Sort of, but with a crucial difference. When new transactions or information get added, they form a block. And each new block is cryptographically linked to the one before it.
Creating a chain, hence blockchain.
Exactly. And this chain creates a history that's transparent but also really, really hard to change secretly. Tampering with it means you'd have to alter the record on potentially thousands of computers simultaneously.
Okay, so that distributed part is key. It's not one person or company controlling the ledger.
Precisely. There's usually no single central authority like a bank needed to verify everything. Instead, there's often a consensus process.
Consensus, how does that work?
Well, multiple participants on the network, sometimes called miners or validators, it depends on the blockchain type.
Yeah.
They have to agree that a new block of transactions is valid before it gets added to the chain.
So everyone, or at least a lot of people, have to agree. That builds trust, I guess.
No.
That's the idea. This distributed agreement is what underpins the security. And, there are different flavors. Some are public and permissionless, like Bitcoin, where anyone can join, often pseudonymously.
And others?
Others are permissioned, more private. You need authorization to participate. Think corporate supply chains, maybe. That gives more control.
Got it. And you mentioned immutability. That means once data's on the chain, it's stuck there forever.
Pretty much, yeah. For all practical purposes, altering old blocks is technically possible, but it's incredibly difficult and expensive because you'd have to redo all the links after it and get the network to agree. So it creates this really reliable history. A single source of truth, as they say.
But what if the original information put in was wrong?
Ah, good point. It's still garbage in, garbage out. If bad data goes in, the blockchain faithfully records that bad data forever. To fix it, you don't change the past. You add a new block with the correction.
Okay, so a secure, shared, hard-to-change record. Now, smart contracts. That sounds like where the action happens. What are those?
Right. Think of a smart contract as basically a computer program stored on the blockchain. It automatically executes the terms of an agreement when certain predefined conditions are met.
So it's like code that enforces a deal. No lawyers needed at that point.
In many cases, yeah. It cuts out the middleman. The contract terms are written directly into code, distributed on the blockchain. They can even hold assets like digital currency.
How does that work? Like an if this, then that kind of thing?
Exactly. If-then logic.
Yeah.
So take a simple example, maybe a short-term rental. The smart contract could hold the payment in escrow.
Yeah.
If the system confirms the renter successfully accessed the property with a digital key by a certain time, then the contract automatically releases the payment to the owner.
And if they don't get access?
Then the contract could automatically refund the money. It just follows the pre-agreed rules coded into it, all recorded on the blockchain.
Okay, wow. That could change a lot. Which brings us to the core question. How does this apply to commercial real estate? Let's start with something familiar, maybe. Multiple listing services, MLS. They can be clunky, right?
Oh, absolutely. A big issue now is fragmentation. You have all these different MLS databases, often using different tech, different rules. They don't talk to each other easily.
Meaning agents have to post the same listing multiple times.
Yes, exactly. It's inefficient, leads to errors when things need updating everywhere. Plus, you've got high fees, and the MLS provider usually owns all that valuable data the agents generate.
Sounds like a system begging for an upgrade. What could blockchain do here? A universal MLS, maybe?
That's the big dream for some. Imagine one single real-time source of truth for all commercial listings built on a blockchain. It would cut redundancy, reduce errors, maybe lower fees.
And transparency, fraud reduction.
Potentially, yes. The inherent transparency and identity verification could help weed out fake listings, but getting everyone in the industry to adopt one system, that's a huge coordination challenge.
All right, that sounds like a moonshot. Are there, like, more practical steps possible sooner?
Definitely. A more intermediate step could be using blockchain as a kind of universal translator, a standard protocol. Existing MLS platforms could use it to talk to each other seamlessly.
So the platforms we use now, but they share data better.
Exactly. Better data accuracy, faster updates, even if you stick with your preferred provider. We're already seeing startups like Rex MLS exploring these kinds of blockchain-based MLS ideas.
Interesting. Okay, moving from listings to leases.
Hmm.
Commercial leases. Notoriously complex, time-consuming, expensive.
For sure. Drafting them, negotiating, all the back and forth legal reviews, it adds up. And then there's interpreting the language later that can lead to disputes. Managing them over time isn't simple either.
So how could smart contracts cut through that complexity?
Well, the core idea is coding the actual lease provisions into a smart contract. Rent payment schedules, maintenance responsibilities, maybe renewal options, even termination conditions.
So you standardize terms more easily.
Potentially, yes. Streamlines creation and signing. But the real power is the automatic execution. Once it's on the blockchain, if the conditions for, say, rent payment are met, like the calendar date arrives, the contract can automatically trigger the payment.
Automatically moves the money.
Yeah, from the tenant's linked wallet to the landlord's, recorded instantly, no chasing invoices, potentially fewer disputes about whether payment was made on time.
And what about the negotiation part? Can it help there?
It could improve communication, yeah. Imagine all parties working on a single digital version of the lease on the blockchain. Every change, every comment is tracked transparently. Creates a clear audit trail.
Okay, that makes sense. Now the big one, actually buying and selling property. So many steps, intermediaries, delays.
Right. It's often a long, paper-heavy process. Smart contracts could automate huge chunks of it. They can be programmed to check if all the sale conditions are met.
Like what? Financing approved, inspections cleared, titled. Okay.
Exactly. If all those conditions are verified, maybe through oracles, which are trusted data feeds connected to the blockchain, then the smart contract automatically releases the funds from escrow and triggers the title transfer process on the blockchain itself.
Whoa, so it could cut out title companies? Escrow agents? Notaries?
It could significantly reduce their role, or in some cases, maybe eliminate the need for some of them. That means potentially huge cost savings on transaction fees.
And speed. Closing times.
Could be dramatic. Instead of weeks or months, you might be looking at days, maybe even hours in some scenarios. We're already seeing platforms experimenting with this. Propi, Property Club, they're using smart contracts, especially for things like international deals or property management tasks.
Okay, speed and cost savings. That's compelling.
Yeah.
What about the underlying record, the title itself, proof of ownership?
Yeah, this is another area where blockchain shines, that immutable ledger we talked about. It creates a permanent, unchangeable record of who owns what.
Making title fraud much harder.
Exactly. Once ownership is recorded, tampering with the historical chain of title becomes incredibly difficult. It provides a much more secure foundation.
And verifying ownership becomes easier.
Much easier and faster. The transaction history is there, viewable, with the right permissions, of course. Smart contracts, again, automate the transfer of that title record when sale conditions are met. Companies like Ubiquity are focusing specifically on secure blockchain title records, while others like ManageGo use it for related things like payments and checks.
Okay, now this term tokenization keeps popping up everywhere. What does that mean for a building or a piece of land?
Right. Tokenization is basically taking a physical asset like an office tower, say, and digitally dividing its ownership into many small pieces called tokens, which are recorded on a blockchain.
So like issuing digital shares in the property.
Exactly. Instead of one person or company owning the whole thing, you could have hundreds or thousands of people owning a small fraction represented by these tokens.
Which means you don't need millions to invest in prime commercial real estate.
Precisely. It massively lowers the barrier to entry. Someone could potentially buy, say, $1,000 worth of tokens representing a piece of a large commercial property. It democratizes access.
That's a huge shift. What about selling your share? Real estate is notoriously illiquid.
That's the other big potential benefit, increased liquidity. These digital tokens could potentially be traded on specialized online marketplaces, much like stocks.
So you could sell your $1,000 stake relatively easily without needing to sell the whole building.
That's the goal, a more fluid secondary market. It makes the investment less locked up. We're seeing quite a few platforms emerge here. Realty, Meridio, RealBlocks, even companies like Fundrise use similar concepts with their rates. And examples like PropBase or BlockSquare are actively tokenizing specific properties.
Wow, okay. So easier access, more liquidity. What about the prep work for a deal? Due diligence, that can take ages.
Blockchain could streamline that significantly too. Imagine having a property's entire history, ownership changes, liens, zoning details, maybe even maintenance records or inspection reports, all recorded transparently and immutably on the blockchain.
So all the info is in one verifiable place.
Potentially, yes. Buyers and their teams could trace the property's history much more easily, reducing the risk of nasty surprises. Having verified digital data readily available saves a ton of time and legwork compared to digging through paper records or disparate databases. Velox.re is one example using Bitcoin's blockchain for property registries.
And one last area, decentralized finance or DeFi. How does that fit in?
DeFi basically uses blockchain to recreate financial services without traditional banks. For real estate, this could mean things like peer-to-peer lending, where loans are secured against tokenized property assets, all managed by smart contracts.
So borrowing or lending outside the traditional banking system.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe offering different rates or terms. Or think about decentralized crowdfunding for development projects. Multiple investors could pool funds, and smart contracts could automatically distribute profits based on pre-agreed rules. LabES Group is exploring some of these ideas.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. If we boil it all down, what are the headline benefits here? Why should people care?
Well, summing it up, I'd say, number one, way more transparency because of those shared immutable ledgers. Number two, enhanced security and less fraud, thanks to cryptography and difficulty tampering.
Right.
Then, improved efficiency and speed cutting out middlemen, automating processes with smart contracts. Big one.
Okay.
Also, broader access to investment through tokenization, breaking down those high entry barriers, and linked to that, increased liquidity, making it easier to trade property shares.
And
Ultimately, potential cost reduction, fewer intermediary fees, less admin overhead. It touches a lot of pain points.
it really sounds revolutionary on paper.
But
What are the roadblocks? The risks? It can't be that
just
easy.
probably. No, absolutely not. There are significant hurdles. Number one is probably regulatory uncertainty. How do existing property laws, KYCML rules, data privacy stuff like GDPR, how does all that apply to blockchain assets and smart contracts? It's still being worked out.
Yeah, the law often lags behind tech. What else?
Technical complexity. It's not simple stuff. There's a steep learning curve for people in the real estate industry. Then there's adoption, getting people to change from processes they've used for decades. That's tough. And some might worry about jobs being displaced.
This is a change, yeah.
Also, scalability. Some blockchains can get slow or expensive when lots of people use them. And there are always cybersecurity risks and the potential for new kinds of digital fraud, even with blockchain security features.
And that immutability thing cuts both ways, doesn't it?
It does. You really have to get the data right the first time because fixing mistakes later isn't straightforward. It's not like just editing a database entry.
So quite a few challenges to overcome.
Yeah.
Looking ahead then, what's the likely path forward? Where is this heading?
I think we'll see continued gradual integration. Blockchain won't replace everything overnight, but it will likely merge with other tech like IoT sensors in buildings, AI for market analysis, creating smarter systems overall.
More sophisticated property tech.
Yeah. And we'll definitely see new investment models emerge around tokenization and smart contracts. Hopefully, the legal and regulatory side will catch up and provide more clarity, which will encourage more adoption.
So growing adoption across different parts of the industry.
I think so. And maybe longer term, it feeds into that bigger vision of Web 3.0, a more decentralized internet where users, not just big platforms, own and control value, including potentially how real estate transactions work, less reliance on central gatekeepers.
Okay, really fascinating stuff. So thinking about all these possibilities, fractional ownership, automated leases, super secure titles, faster deals. If you had to pick one aspect, or maybe a combination that you think will have the biggest future impact on how we own and trade commercial property, what would it be?
That's a tough one because they're all interconnected. But gun to my head, I think the combination of tokenization and smart contracts working together.
Why that combination specifically?
Because tokenization fundamentally changes who can own and how ownership is structured, making it more accessible and divisible. And smart contracts provide the automated engine to manage all the complexities that come with that fractional ownership, distributing income, handling votes, facilitating trading. It's that synergy, democratizing access and providing the tools to manage it efficiently. That could really unlock liquidity and change the investment landscape most profoundly.
A powerful combination indeed. Some incredibly thought-provoking insights. Thanks so much for breaking all that down with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's a fascinating space to watch.
So just a quick wrap-up for you. We've seen how blockchain and smart contracts aren't just hype. They offer some potentially powerful tools to tackle long-standing issues in commercial real estate, like transparency, security, speed, and access.
But, as we discussed, it's not a magic bullet. Regulation, adoption, technical hurdles. Those are real challenges still being addressed.
Definitely. So we hope this deep dive gives you a clearer picture of the specific ways blockchain might reshape the market and prompts you to think about how it could impact your own involvement in commercial real estate down the line. And that's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.